Hello, I'm Jamie Vaughn, and I am here today with singer, songwriter, and humorist, and the man my family can't go to Krispy Kreme donuts without talking about, Aaron Wilburn. Hi, Aaron. How are you today?
Hey, Jamie, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How are you holding up during all of the shelter in place right now?
You know, if this is what retirement feels like, I'm going to enjoy this one day.
Oh, good. Good.
I've written a lot and organized, had some time to organize. Have not used my time efficiently, but from time to time, I have a mental probing and I get up and go at it. So
Yeah.
life is good. How about you?
Well, I'm good. Nashville closed down, so I decided to visit my family in Florida. I thought it would be a couple of weeks. It's been 2 months, but that's great too. So I'm sitting in my childhood home right now and still working and getting to talk to all of you. So I think we're doing good here on our end as well.
Good.
Yeah,
I live in Hendersonville,
nice.
Tennessee.
hmm And I understand that they're really open and people are able to get around up there.
It is opening up, yes. The restaurants, I think, are maybe at either 40 or 50%.
hmm
Um, but I haven't been out a lot. I'm kind of watching to see how things, you know,
Yeah,
how
I,
it
I think
smooths
that's
out.
a good idea. I do think that's a good idea. So you told me earlier that you're organizing a book. What's it going to be about? Do you have
Yes.
an idea?
I actually have two books
Okay.
that I'm working on. One is just easy. The title of the book is I Said That. A lot of times, I used to post a lot of things on, and still do on Facebook.
hmm
And then I started having original thoughts.
hmm
And every time so I decided I need to separate those somehow. And so when I have an original post, at the end of it, I post, I said that, Aaron Wilburn.
I saw that. I
Oh,
saw
okay.
that. Yes.
You could write a book called I Saw That.
Good. Oh my goodness, could I? Or I heard that. So, what's your other book about?
It's called Living in the Waiting Room. Uh, and it is a book I started quite some time back. About probably less than a year into that, I got a call that my oldest sister's son, both of them are now deceased, but her her only son was in the hospital from a stroke. And so the next few days, our family gathered in the waiting room. And all of a sudden, this book that I already had the title for and that I'm working on, waiting or living in the waiting room, came to life. And I realized everybody in life is waiting on something.
hmm
You can talk to a 5-year-old, he can't wait to be 6.
hmm
When they start school, they want to be in junior high, and then they want to be in high school. They want to go to college. They want to get married. They want to have a baby. They want to buy a house. Everything comes in increments in our lives, and looking, we're always looking ahead, often to our detriment as far as enjoying the moment, because we're looking ahead and instead of enjoying where we're standing. And but life is a series of living in the waiting room, and it'll be short chapters. Some of them will have some of the lyrics of my songs with them. Uh, my favorite, not my favorite perhaps, but it was the first one I wrote. It's called Those Kids Are Too Quiet. And in it, I talk about the fact that I've heard moms through the years say, somebody needs to check on those kids. They're too quiet.
hmm
They're up to something. So, to make it more concise, I'll end it real quick here. But the idea is that one day I'm realizing when you pray and nothing changes, you cry out, the heavens are silent. It's not the time to be frustrated, to be angry or disappointed. It's the time to be excited because God is quiet. He's up to something. And then I go on over the next few lines to say, whatever you're going through, whether you hear anything or not, just know that He is up to something in your life. So that's the heart of the message, and it'll be just short pages, short chapters.
Okay. I needed to hear that this morning. Thank you. Do you know when there'll be, when we should be looking for it to release?
Oh gosh, that book is going to be probably another year. Okay. I said that hopefully within the year. I had a lady that was going to help me organize it, put it together, and make sense of my jumble I said that. And then the virus hit, and she and her husband live in Kansas. And so we have that on hold right now.
Okay. Well, I can't wait to read it.
Well, thank you for asking.
You're very welcome. Now, I want to hear about being in the Alabama Music Hall of Fame. I mean, you're in there with Vestal and Tammy Wynette and Lionel Richie. That's some pretty great company. How did that all come about?
Well, I paid them a lot of money. Actually, the fun story behind that, everything in my life seems to have a story behind it. A few years ago when they contacted me and told me they'd like to put an exhibit of my life, my music in the Hall of Fame. And by the way, in the Hall of Fame, they have one of the velvet jackets that I wore on stage with the Happy Goodman family when I was with them.
That's great.
But they said we need a copy of your birth certificate to prove that you were born in Alabama.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, that'll be simple enough. So I get my birth certificate out of the place where it's kept, and I look at it, and Jamie, it's an Alabama birth certificate, and it says, born in Tennessee.
How did that happen?
Well, I started trying to find out. My oldest sister, I finally called her, and she said, well, I know why. And I said, well, please tell me, because I've got to get this fixed, or an understanding of it. And she said, when I was born in a doctor's office in Ardmore, and Ardmore is on the Alabama-Tennessee line, part of it's Alabama, part Tennessee. There was no post office in Alabama. All the Ardmore mail came to the Tennessee post office. So the state of Alabama had to send my birth certificate to the state of Tennessee post office. So someone in that office, I guess, saw that since it was going to Tennessee, I was born in Tennessee. So anyway, we got it straightened out. And so there you have it.
My mother's Alabama birth certificate says she has a different mother. So we're all still trying to find that out. But
really?
Yeah, we just think, we know it's a clerical error, but it's always a family running joke about that, about her Alabama birth certificate.
Where was she born?
Enterprise.
Yes.
Families from down there. So, but I couldn't imagine growing up as a small town kid, and you're doing this now. Is this something that you dreamed of doing, or is it just something that kind of happened for you? I mean, coming from Ardmore and singing with the Goodmans, and now you're one of America's best humorists.
Oh, thank you. When I was in the 4th grade, the girl sitting in front of me turned around, and I'm always amazed. By the way, I'm always interjecting thoughts over my thoughts, so excuse me. But she turned around and asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I told her I was going to be a songwriter. Well, here I am we're living in a sharecropper shack
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of rural Alabama. Not the middle of Alabama, but in the middle of that
Yeah.
Alabama. Very poor cotton farmers.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the audacity to say, I want to be a songwriter. I'm sure that's the first time that had ever been spoken in that classroom at Blanche School near Ardmore.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that she told me I was stupid and I couldn't do that. And at recess, she told some of the classmates what I had said, and they all made fun of me. You know, they all laughed at me. And I guess I would have laughed at me too if the dream hadn't been inside. That afternoon when I got in from school, I remember going into a field, and I still remember it was freshly plowed. And I remember sitting there in that dirt and crying because I had been humiliated by all my classmates. But at 11, before I ever wrote a song, I knew I wanted to be a songwriter. Mm-hmm. Now, the irony of all this is I went to a neighbor's house on Sunday morning to watch the Happy Goodman family on the Gospel Singing Jubilee. We didn't have a television. Mm-hmm. And, you know, sometimes I tell people, some people back then didn't believe in it. It wasn't that we didn't believe in it. We just believed we didn't have enough money to buy one. So I would walk to Mr. and Mrs. Camp's house, little house. And while they ate breakfast, they had no interest in it. But while they ate breakfast, they allowed me to watch Gospel Singing Jubilee on television. I would walk back home, and then we would all go to the Free Will Baptist Church about 1.5 miles, 2 miles mm-hmm. From where we lived. And my dad, I heard him pray, literally heard him pray, and he told me, what you need is someday when you write songs. I'd never written a song, and my dad is telling me, someday when you write songs, you need to travel with someone like the Happy Goodman family. Every road I've walked, every time there was a juncture, there was favor. And it took my hand and led me down the right road. I've been so blessed with the people in my life that cared about what I do. And I was at a all-day dinner. Well, it's all-day dinner. They call it all-day singing, but it's all-day dinner mostly. Yeah. Near Scottsboro, Alabama. Mm-hmm. And I sang with the trio at that time. And we sang 2 or 3 of the songs I'd written. By this time, I was 17. No, I'm sorry. I was 18. Okay. And this man walked up to me at lunchtime and said, I'd like for my sister to hear some of those songs you've written. And I said, I'll get her a tape, which at that time would have been a reel-to-reel.
Oh, okay.
I said, I'll get her a tape, and I'll get her address before I leave here. And so we exchanged a little more conversation, and he walked away. One of the guys that I sang with at that time walked over and asked, what did he want? Mm-hmm. And I said, his sister sings, and he'd like for her to hear my songs. And he said, "Do you know who that was?" I said, "No." He said, "That was Cat Freeman. His sister is Vestal Goodman."
And she sings a little.
He's been known
Mm-hmm.
to hum, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Cat set it up with Rusty
Mm-hmm.
that I would meet them at a concert at the Dallas Street Armory in Huntsville, Alabama. The tickets were $3.50, and if I'd had to pay, I couldn't have.
Wow.
I met them and played them 3 or 4 of my songs. Rusty that night sang a song he had just written called "Who Am I?"
Mm-hmm.
Brought the place down. I mean, people were sobbing. I'll never forget the feeling. There is nothing quite like a great song being introduced to an audience and they hear it for the first time and it speaks a truth to them they already know, but it just amplifies it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened that night. And then Rusty asked me if I could come to Birmingham 3 or 4 months later and meet them there. I had a friend of mine drive me to Birmingham, and I met the Goodmans there. Rusty said, "We're thinking about putting together a young, happy Goodman family with Howard and Vestal's daughter, Vicky,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd really like to have you be a part of that." And my heart was just, yes, yes. And then right on the end of that conversation, he said, "No, you need to be by yourself. You need to do what you do. You don't need to be part of a group." And my heart just sank through my shoes. And by the way, I've never told anybody this what we're talking about here. And I went home pretty disappointed, but a lot of encouragement from Rusty. A few weeks later, I'm at my sister's. Actually, a couple of weeks later, I'm at my sister's in Huntsville, and Mom calls me and says, "Son, Rusty Goodman just called, and you need to call him." And she said, "He has asked," gosh, "he has asked if you could move to Madisonville, Kentucky, and travel with the Happy Goodman family."
Wow.
So I go from a life of people literally having to drive me around because I don't have gas money to being with the people who have been my musical heroes
Mm-hmm.
from the time I was old enough to have a musical hero.
Yeah.
Probably a longer story than you wanted, but there it is.
It's a great story, and it is a great story, and I appreciate you sharing it with me. Now, how did it come about that you got to write with Bill and Gloria Gaither? Gloria is my hero.
They're phenomenal people.
Mm-hmm.
I was at Rusty asked me to come over to their house. They were putting together material, and I helped them put together material for their, helped them find material for their albums while I was with them.
Mm-hmm.
And let me give a little side note here. I've told this a few times from the stage, but not often, and never like this. I told Rusty when they were gathering material for one particular album, there's a song that the choir at Virginia Boulevard Church of God in Huntsville, Alabama sings that would really be good for you guys. He said, well, get me the music today. So I called Church of God, Cleveland, Tennessee, publishing house, and asked them to send me the music. In fact, a few years ago, the very guy that I talked to walked up to me in a concert and said, I'm the guy that you called for the sheet music for a song for the Happy Goodman family. He said, the Church of God Publishing Company owes you a huge favor. He sent me the sheet music, and I gave it to them, and they recorded What a Lovely Name.
Oh, wow.
But in this other process, Rusty invites me over to his house, and he said, Bill Gaither's coming in. And one of the songs I remember Bill had just written, I think recently, he and Gloria, was These Are They. Mm-hmm. And we all spent time together that morning. Bill invited me to come up to their house sometimes and ride with them. And I'm seeing, when I said, well, I'll go, the hand of favor has reached out and guided me. 2 days before I went, and this was 3 or 4 years later, mm-hmm. I was at the quartet convention. The Cruz family, you may have heard that name, but you probably don't. That's quite some time back. The Cruz family was singing, and my publisher at the time, Aaron Brown, was standing beside me off to the side. And I said, wow, what a great line. He said, what? I said, that song they're singing, It's Beginning to Rain. He said, that's not what they said. I asked, what did they say? He said, let's begin to reign, R-E-I-G-N. I said, they didn't say it's beginning to rain? He said, no. I said, oh, wow. Afterwards it shall come to pass, I'll pour out my spirit upon all flesh, your sons and your daughters, da-da-da-da-da-da. It's beginning to rain. And he had no clue what I was talking about as we were standing there. So on the way up, I've got this melody, and I still have the cassette tape. And it's like, it's beginning to rain. Da 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 da, and I don't know where it went from there. So I get there to Bill and Gloria's and walk in. I remember Gloria said, Aaron, I've just made some cookies. Let's sit down and have coffee and cookies. And so we sat down, and then one of them asked, so what are we going to write today? I said, well, I've got this little idea that's been kind of running around in my head. And I told him, and Bill said, that's the song. So we probably wrote for an hour and a half, maybe, mm-hmm. and walked out of there with a completed song called It's Beginning to Rain.
Wow, I love that story. So as a songwriter, what's the favorite lyric you've ever written? Would it be It's Beginning to Rain?
That's certainly one of them, but 4 days late is certainly mm-hmm. up there in the, maybe jumping up and down saying, pick me, pick me. And then way up there on the list is love the people that God gives you. They're a gift that heaven sent. Mm-hmm. Anyway, love the people God gives you, because one day he'll want them back.
Mm-hmm. And what about favorite song you wish you had have written?
I think one of the coolest lyrics Oh, there's so many songs, but I love the lyrics to "The Blind Man Saw It All"
Hmm.
by the Booth Brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, the blind man saw it all.
Yeah.
No, what a great line. Um, I don't know that that would be the song that I wish I had written most of, but it would be in the top 5.
Yeah.
Um, I've never, I really guess haven't thought about that a lot through the years.
Well, you've written so many great ones. It's okay not to have one you wish you had written.
You know what? I'm very thankful for where I am, and
Hmm.
I've got a really cool song that I hope I can say this, but I can, but I hope it's okay. Uh, Doyle Lawson heard it the day it was sent out on demo to him, and called immediately and said, "This song hit me in the face, and I want it." He's getting ready to record it.
Oh, wow.
It's called "The Reason Mama Prayed,"
Hmm.
and the lyrics to the first verse go something like this: "My mama had a reason for everything she did. The way she loved our daddy, the way she raised us kids. Why she kept that bacon grease in a pint fruit jar. She said that makes those biscuits what they are. But you're looking at the reason Mama prayed. It took a lot of me time to get me where I am today. No telling how much sleep she lost till I finally found the way. And you're looking at the reason Mama prayed."
Well, I can't wait to hear Dole record that. That's
Uh,
exciting.
he's recorded several of my songs, and I love his his music, his vocals.
Hmm.
I'm very thankful.
Yeah. As we wrap up here, is there a message of hope that you would like to give to the viewers?
Well, just as surely as there were tomorrows ahead before this happened,
Mhm.
there are still tomorrows ahead. And we have no less future now than we had before all of this happened.
Mhm.
I'm I think we are all of a sudden life stopped, and they brought the all the equipment in and started digging in the earth, saying there's gold here. Now we've got to dig it out.
Mhm.
And before all that process starts, you can't tell that there's something worth much, and your treasures are not seen. But
Mhm.
I think this is going to help some of us to see treasure uh, that all of this brings out. I think some people will appreciate life more.
Mhm.
I know I certainly do.
Mhm.
And it's like sitting here this morning looking at you saying, "Another human being. There's somebody to talk to." But I think there's a lot of things we will not take for granted anymore.
Mhm.
And so just realize the diamonds, the gold, whatever, however you'd like to look at it, that that all of this is going to mine out of our lives. And let's just be thankful every day that we are still healthy
Mhm.
and blessed, and there are still days ahead, just as there were days ahead before all of this.
Mhm. Aaron, thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for asking.
Well, I hope you have a great day.
And you too. Thank you.
Thank you.